जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। वन्दे शम्भो उमापतिं सुरगुरुं वन्दे जगत्कारणम् वन्दे पन्नगभूषणं मृगधर वन्दे पशूनां पतिं वन्दे सूर्यशशाङ्कवह्निनयनं वन्दे मुकुन्दप्रियं वन्दे भक्तजनाश्रयं च वरदम् वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम् वन्दे शिवं शङ्करम्। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to today's session of Shivanandalahari. So, in the last session, we went through a few verses where Acharya was emphasizing on aspects that were talking about the desires of devotee. Initially, there was the perspective that why doesn't the Lord interfere with my fate? Try to change it because this fate is driving me away from you, right? And please don't plead incapacity about your ability to interfere, because you are someone who so easily flicked off the head of Brahma. But then further on, it evolves to kind of like accept everything that is happening, provided it is the will of the Lord. That submission, that sharanagati, ultimately in devotion, the point is about submitting ourselves, to be submissive in the sense of subduing our own ego and understanding that if this be your will. This gives rise to a very interesting question. Is there something called Purusha Prayatna then? The moment we talk about submission, immediately the question that typically comes to mind, and may not be for everybody, but at least for me, like speaking for myself, the question that emerges is like, then what's the point of Purusha Prayatna? Let's just submit ourselves and say, okay, whatever happens, this is your wish. Whatever happens, this is your desire. And I'm going to claim inaction. Is that really true, though, is the question. Because even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that even if you try to turn away from action, the Prakriti is going to niyokshasi, the Prakriti is going to compel you to act. So we are always going to be presented with the choice. Withdrawing from action is impossible. And action not only in terms of like, just doing something physically. If we broaden the horizon, if we broaden the area of the definition of action, though in all the most of the bhashyas and everything that even Shankaracharya had written, the aspect of action or karma is very limited in scope, in that it is only talking about the yajniya karma, like the performance of the yajnas and sacrifice and all of that. But truly, in our context, if we were to broaden the scope, everything that we are doing is an action. We are breathing, we are eating, we are thinking. It is not just about physical, but also the mental activity. Activity is, if we can broaden it to that extent, then we are always given a choice of whether we want to act with our basal tendencies, the way nature has kind of like, put us into this mold. Do we just act the way our innate desires drive us, or we are endowed with a higher capability, right? In our brain itself, we have like a prefrontal cortex. Why did this even happen? Because there is something called as discrimination, viveka. We have to make use of all of these higher functionalities. So what is it that we are supposed to make use of this for? It is to find the right tune in which we are reverberating with the universal consciousness or that supreme Paramatma. What does that mean? And how can we kind of like, bring this sort of like samanvaya between willpower and the will of the Supreme? The will of the Supreme is always going to be towards dharma, right? That is why Krishna says, whenever there is going to be glani to this dharma, I'm going to come back again and again and again. So, in order to re-establish it, then what is dharma? What is that attunement to that dharma? Dharayate dharmaha, dharanat dharmaha. Dharana is something that which can uplift, that which can uphold, that which supports. That is why earth is called Dhara, Dharitri, because she upholds, she uplifts, she is supporting the entire known creation that we are looking at around us. Dharma is that which uplifts. So, corollary to that, can we ask ourselves that everything that I'm doing, am I upholding, am I uplifting someone around me? If not anybody else, at least myself, and upholding in the true sense, in the true sense of what the divine will is. The sun does not pick and choose on whom it is going to shower the light. The cloud does not pick and choose on whom it is going to rain. The earth does not pick and choose whom am I going to uphold. So the true essence of that upholding is not about saying that I like this person and therefore I'm going to be kind to this person, but I'm not going to be kind to the rest of them. Or I have like similarity in thinking and thought patterns, so I'm going to be more tolerant towards these thoughts. But anyone who does not agree with me or my view, then I'm not going to be tolerant about that person. Dharma has to be universal. Kindness, love, compassion, empathy, all of these are not sectarian aspects. They are universal. So in our actions, When we are willing for something, when we are choosing something, if we can choose something that is resonant with dharma, the true essence of dharma, then our own actions that we are doing willfully is resonant with the will of the supreme power. At that time, the surrendering happens so naturally. Even that willful surrender does not detach us from action. It detaches us from the fruits of the action. And that is why Krishna tells Arjuna, fight. Fight not because you want to fight for your own wealth. This is not a question of just merely who is going to have access to this region, this geography, and let's fight. This is beyond that. This is about dharma. This is about righteousness. This is about uplifting. And therefore, he is prompted to go into the battle and fight. There, when he decides that, yes, I'm going to, there is surrender, but there is action. There is willful action, but there is no clash between what I desire and what potentially the God, the supreme power, desires. There is no clash over there. And that comes when we continue to purify ourselves internally by chipping away at all of these basal aspects that come with us. The six basal aspects: kama, krodha, moha, lobha, mada, matsarya. If we chip all of that away, or in other words, if we surrender all of that, then what remains is that pure inner essence, which is going to be in perfect harmony with what the true supreme power, which is also within us, intends for us to do. Our choices is not going to be dichotomous. Our choices is not going to lead to confusion. And that is why towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, have you made up your mind? You still have a choice. At the end of having said everything, Krishna still gives Arjuna, you have the choice even now. If you agree with everything that I have said, you choose what you want to do. And then he says, Nashto mohaha smritir labdva. Now I have clarity. That clarity is what is most important. And in the very next verse, let's look at how Shankaracharya talks about taming all of these basal instincts. And he even calls out to Shiva, and very beautifully he gives an example of how this mind can be of use to him. It's I think one of my favorite verses in Shivanandalahari. Very delighted to be starting today's session with this one. सदा मोहाटव्यां चरति युवतीनां कुचगिरौ न नटत्याशा शाखा स्वटति झटिति स्वैरमभितः कपालिन् भिक्षो मे हृदय कपिमत्यन्तचपलम् दृढं भक्त्या बद्ध्वा शिव भवदधीनं कुरु विभो दृढं भक्त्या बद्ध्वा शिव भवदधीनं कुरु विभो. हे कपालिन भिक्षो, हे शिवा, हे विभो, सदा मोहाटव्यां चरति युवतीनां कुचगिरौ नटति आशा शाखासु झटिति स्वैरम अभितः अटति अत्यंत चपलं मे हृदय कपिम बद्ध्वा दृढ़ं बद्ध्वा भवदधीनं कुरु. So what Shankaracharya talks about in this verse is, he says, he uses a very appropriate way of addressing Shiva here. He calls him, Hey Kapalin, bearer of the skull. Bhikshu, you are a mendicant. You go around begging. You are the most auspicious one. You are the very form of everything that is auspicious, Shiva. And you are the Lord. You are the Lord who is all pervading, Vyapnoti, right? Vyapana is the aspect of Vibhava, and he is Vibho, all pervading, omnipresent. What should he do? He says, this monkey mind of mine always wanders. Where does it wander? It wanders in Mohatavyam. Moha Atavi. Atavi is forest. It wanders in the forests of Moha, delusion. Does it just wander around in the forests? What else does it do? It From the forest, it starts getting onto the hills of all those physical attractions. And here it is represented with that, the female aspects, Kuchagirao. In the female bosoms, that is where it keeps jumping around on those hills, mounts. But what else does it do? Obviously, there are trees, and then it keeps asha shakha su jhatiti. Jhatana is very swiftly moving from one to other, one to other. What sort of branches? Asha branches, branches of desires. It sees something over on one branch, it jumps up there, indulges for a while, and then the next thing attracts and it's off to the next branch. And it tirelessly, it wants to move from one to other, one to other, one to other, constantly looking like what else, what else, what else? I'm done with this. What else? I'm done with that. What else? Swairam, it has no clarity about why or for what it wants to pursue these desires. As the senses drive it, swechataya, swairam is swechataya. There is a difference, right? We have swechachara, and then we have swatantriya. Freedom and swechachara. There is, we barely ever think about what the difference is between the two. Freedom comes with duties. There are responsibilities. Swechachara is not about responsibility. Swechachara is my way, the highway. My will is what it is. Whatever I desire, that is what I want to do. So Swairam Abhitaha is in all directions. Swairam Abhitaha Atati. So it keeps running around in all directions. As and how its mind, it kind of the sense organs, it's going to pull here, pull there, in all directions. It keeps running around, running amok. What is this all representative of? It is representative of the way this monkey mind of mine behaves. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? If Shiva were to ask, okay, I understand your mind is very hyperactive, there is no control of your mind, so what? The so what is implied in his addressing of Shiva. He calls him, Hey Kapalan, Hey Bhikshu. We saw in the previous verses the story that was also referenced in talking about Brahma's head being cut off. Just with the tip of your fingernail itself, you cut Brahma's head off. What happened? So Brahma, having, being Brahma, the head kind of stuck to Shiva because it started saying, like, I want, I want, I want. Right? It was the Ahankara Swarupa of Brahma, which was in his fifth head, and it got flicked off, but it caught on to Shiva and kept yearning and asking, like, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. Feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. So, in his eternal compassion, Shiva is like, fine, you know what? I have done this and I have to show that every action is going to have consequences. So, let us show the consequence. And to also represent that the desires of your ahankara is never extinguishable. It is always going to keep on asking for more and more and more and more and more and more. So he goes around begging. You're a kapali. You're a kapalika. You have held you're holding the kapala, the Brahma kapala in your hand. And what are you doing? You're doing bhikshatana. You're going begging to everybody. the the um, the aspect of, he being the Parameshwara, the Lord of everything, and yet he goes around asking for alms. So Shankaracharya says, anyways, you are going around begging. You know what is going to be helpful for you while you are begging? You should have a monkey with you. And you imagine, right? So when we were kids, we used to have all of these people who would come with bears that would dance, and then monkeys and everything that would perform different tricks. So Shankaracharya says, my monkey mind is a very suitable companion for you. This is hyperactive. You might want it to perform various tricks. It does that. It keeps, it runs off into the forests, and then it jumps on hills. From hill to hill it keeps like traveling, and then it keeps swinging from one branch to another branch, and then like it keeps running around here and there and here and there. So it is very agile. It can do a lot of activities. So why don't you go make it perform a few activities? So when people look at you having a monkey mind of mine, performing all of these antics, they might give you more bhiksha. So it is going to be a win-win situation. You are also going to benefit by having this monkey with you. What is the benefit for me then? There is a clear benefit for you. What is the benefit for me? That benefit is outlined in what he says, bhaktya dridham badhva. You have to bind it. This is a very, very mischievous monkey. This is super hyperactive. So you need to bind it properly. What is the noose with which you are going to bind this? He says, bhaktya dridham badhva. Very strongly, not like, you need to choke it. Bhakti should not become like a choking hazard. No, the knot should not break. You don't have to choke. That's not what is being referred to. But the knot should not break. Bhakti should not break. As human beings, we suffer from so many challenges in our life that we invariably start questioning, what is the point of all of these things? I gave my all to Shiva or that supreme power, right? Every day I do this, every day I do that. And yet I'm like, subjected to these challenges, subjected to this pain and suffering. What is the point of all of this? We all go through those dark phases. Or we question many things like, is all of this even worth it? For what am I doing all of this? Then that bhakti is not dridha because it is conditional. The true meaning of bhakti in Shandilya Sutra is that which is para, right? In Shandilya Sutra, bhakti is explained as that divine love towards the supreme power, unconditional love towards the supreme power. So when there is no conditions, there is no question of it falling apart because there is no desire attached to it. That I am going to love you only if you are going to do these things. More often than not, that is our relationship with God. If you are going to do this, then I'm going to come and do something for you. I'll do Laksharchana, I'll do Sahasra Rudrabhisheka and all that kind of we give all of those. And so we treat that relationship almost as though it is like exactly how it is with everybody else around us. Give and take. It is not bhakti. Shankaracharya says, Bhaktya dridham badhva bhavadadhinam. Make it and take it under your control. You are able to do it. I can't control my mind. It behaves like this. But if you were to control my mind and draw it towards you, having tied with an unbreakable bond, a knot that cannot sever, the knot of devotion. With that, if you were to control this, then my mind is going to be very fruitful for you. In that, everything that I'm going to do, having had the chodana of this mind, it is going to be towards you. All actions of mine become submitted towards you because my mind is submitted to you. And that is where, again, if you connect this to the other verse of Shankaracharya, where he says, Atma Tvam Girijamatihi Sahacharaha Pranaha Shariram Griham Pujate Vishayopa Bhoga Rachana Nidra Samadhi Sthitihi Sancharah Padayoh Pradakshina Vidhi Stotrani Sarvagiro Yadyat Karomi Yadyat Karma Karomi Tat Tadakhilam Shambho Tavaradhanam. Any karma, anything that you do, and here you see every action, nidra samadhi sthitihi, the sleep is your samadhi, being immersed in oneness with you. Everywhere that my legs take me, I am performing your pradakshina itself, because where is there any part of this earth that is not you? Anu Renu Trinakashtha, everything from the minute to the magnificent, to the most majestic, to the most huge, everything is you. So wherever I go, everything is your pradakshina. Whatever I say is your stuti. I'm calling out to you. I'm giving my obeisances to you. I'm surrendering myself. I'm singing your glories. I'm doing your bhajana. Everything I say is your bhajana. So in this beautiful way, he says, this monkey mind of mine is also going to become useful, provided you take it under your control with that unbreakable knot of devotion. Tridham bhaktya badhva bhavadadhinam kuru. Now, he gives another metaphor, a very beautiful metaphor, a little tricky one, but let's see how we can understand this. In this verse, he compares this mind to a tent. But at what point? धृतिस्तम्भाधारम् दृढगुणनिबद्धां सगमनाम् विचित्रां पद्माढ्यां प्रतिदिवससन्मार्गघटितां स्मरारे मच्चेतस्फुटपटकुटीं प्राप्य विशदाम् जयस्वामिन् शक्त्या सह शिवगणैः सेवित विभो स्मरारे मच्चेतस्फुटपटकुटीं प्राप्य विशदाम् जयस्वामिन् शक्त्या सह शिवगणैः सेवित विभो. When the mind that was behaving like a monkey in the previous verse is knotted with that rope of devotion, unbreakable, unshakable, then that mind is transformed into a fantastic tent, a very interesting tent. What are the features of this tent now? It says, Hey Smarare, Hey Swamin, Hey Shiva, Hey Ganai Sevita, Hey Vibho, Dhritistambhadharam, Drida Guna Nibaddham, Sagamanam, Vichitram, Padmadhyam, Prati Divasa Sanmarga Ghatitam, Vishadam, Macchetas Phutapata Kutim, Prapya, Shaktya Saha, Jaya. Be victorious. Be victorious. Be very happy. Doing what? You should be very happy to come with Shakti, with the Mother Goddess, with the Divine Mother Goddess. You should come and Shivaganai Sevita with all of your entire entourage, with your entire Gana, all of your followers, devotees, everyone that have surrendered to you, have attained the Shivagana Padavi. Bring everyone, and you can relax and rest and enjoy in a tent. Oh yeah? Okay, what sort of a tent have you set up for me? Now he gives a very beautiful picture of that tent. He says, Smarare, O destroyer of Kama, ever accompanied by Shakti, your divine consort, you should enter and dwell victoriously in this mind of mine, which has now taken the shape of a very shining, a very resplendent, right? Vishadam, utterly very pure. Vishadam, very resplendent, very shining, mobile tent of mine. This mobile tent, when it is set up, it has a supporting pillar, right? Whenever we go for camping and everything, we set up our tents and everything. So there are going to be nails that are put on the corners. There is going to be a center a pole that has to hold up the tent. And then there are going to be ropes that have to hold the tent so that when there is like wind and everything, the tent doesn't kind of get uprooted and taken off. So he creates that picture. He says, this tent of mine has a pillar. Dhritis Stambhadharam. It is supported by the pillar of Dhriti. And we'll go into much deeper aspects of what all of this is. So he says, this is set up with a supporting pillar of my dhriti. And then there are the gunas. Guna here, there is like Shleshalankara. So here there is guna represents like the gunas that we know of, the sattva, rajas, tamas, and all of that, right? Guna is also a word used to signify rope. So it says Dridha Guna Nibaddham, with very like strong ropes, I have tied it down. Sagamanam. Okay, so it is mobile. It keeps moving from one place to another place. So this is where the question emerges. You are saying it is like, firmly, there is like a pillar, and then like, there is a strong pillar, and then it is strongly bound by ropes, but then you're also saying this kind of like moves. What is this? Let's pause on that. We'll come back to it. Put a pin on that. We'll come back to it. Vichitram. It is very colorful. Vichitram is not just about very strange. Over a period of time now, it has kind of like taken that common representation or a common meaning that, it is very weird, or is very strange. But actually, Vichitram is something that is very extremely colorful. Okay. So, Vichitram Padmadhyam. Padmadhyam here also represents to, like, it has, obviously it is very colorful. So what is it very colorful of? It is colorful, like, there are beautiful decorations of lotuses. And in some commentaries, they also say there is like a beautiful lotus lake nearby. It doesn't kind of like really make much sense to me, because if the thing is like always constantly moving, like, the lake also isn't moving really. But maybe the movement is all happening near lake bodies. Let's understand it that way. Padmadhyam. A lot of like, there are beautiful patterns of lotuses. So it is a well decorated tent, basically. Prati Divasa Sanmarga Ghatitam. So it is on the Sanmarga. Sanmarga is also interpreted as the Rajamarga. So it is highway, right? So you are always going to be like, if we were to connect it to the previous verse, you're a bhikshi, you're a bhikshu, right? You're going to be going along asking for bhiksha. So you want to always travel on the highway, so that you will find like, a lot of people who are also travelers who are all going by. So high chances of you finding somebody too. So this tent is all set up along the highway itself with ample facilities. There is like a pond, so don't have to worry about water cooking. Like, I need water to cook, no problem at all. There is a water source nearby. It is a beautiful water source which has a lot of like lotuses in it and all of that. And this is a firm tent and also mobile, right? So whenever you want to move, like, okay, I'm done here, I want to move to the next one, it will, you can lift it up and we can relocate. And whenever it is set up, it will be set up very strongly also. Pratidivasa Sanmarga Ghatitam Vishadam. And it is very pure, very clean, very well maintained. So into this sort of a tent, you come with Shakti, with Parvati, with Adiparashakti, you come, and you are Parameshwara. So both of you come and enjoy with your Ganas. Shaktya Saha Jaya. So this is a very straightforward explanation. But then there are questions that emerge when we start, like, trying to understand the nuances of this verse. There are more questions that come up. Let's start with the very first word. How does he address Shiva here? In the previous one, he called Shiva Kapali Bhikshu, because as a mendicant, take this monkey mind of mine and like, make it bhavadadhinam kuru, make it, take it under your control, subjugate this monkey mind towards you. When that mind is subjugated, when that mind has surrendered, what is the state of a mind that is surrendered? It is not going to be driven wild by desires, kama. It understands, it has viveka. Now the mind has viveka. And that chitta is not going to waver now. And therefore, the most appropriate way to now address Shiva is Smarari. Smara is Kama. Who is Kama's enemy? Shiva. What sort of a Kama? And here we can go back to that beautiful instance of what happened during, at the time when Parvati was trying to woo Shiva, right? After Dakshayani gives up her material body because Daksha would have insulted, demeaned Shiva. Dakshayani will say, like Adishakti, she will say, this body is no longer fit because this was born by you. This has been identified as Dakshayani. And I don't want to be identified in anyone who cannot even understand Shiva, who cannot even realize what Shiva is about. So I don't care. And she gives up her body. And Shiva withdraws. Shakti is withdrawn into Shiva, and Shiva withdraws. He becomes self-immersed at this point in time. But then there is Tarakasura who comes up and he gains a boon that only Shiva's son would be able to destroy me. And now all the gods again, they go to Adishakti and pray to her, and she says, yes, I can't be separated from him. I want to be his consort, and I'm going to take birth as Parvati in the house of Himalaya, Himavan and Menaka. And Narada visits, and then he says, oh, she's destined to marry Parameshwara. She is, after all, Parashakti, so she is meant for Parameshwara. So, in that initial phase, Himavan puts Parvati in the service of Shiva. And the gods would be very impatient. The gods would be very keen to ensure that, the son of Shiva and Parvati are going to be born as soon as possible, because we can't put up with this, the torture of torture that Tarakasura is putting us through. So how do we get rid of him? So immediately Indra summons Kama and tells, like, Parvati is currently serving Shiva. Every single day she goes, she worships and comes back. Shiva does not pay any heed. He doesn't even bother. He doesn't even care who is coming, who is going. He is self-immersed. So they say, go to Shiva and, instill a bit of desire in him. In Akala, see, the especially in Kumara Sambhava, where Kalidasa deals with this whole incident, he paints, there is so many aspects, there are so many layers that we can uncover in that point. Vasanta, Kama calls Vasanta and Rati, and obviously he goes with his entire entourage, and it is an akala. In an akala, he brings about Vasanta to the space where Shiva would be. In the sense that even when the desire that is misplaced or is mistimed is not good. That is why even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharata shabha. I am kama, but that kama which is not against dharma. Even the desires that we have, whatever we want to covet, whatever we want to work towards, it should be in alignment with something that is going to uplift us, uplift everybody around us. When our desires are vulgar, when our desires are untimely, out of place, out of time, it is not appropriate at all. Those desires are not good for the upliftment of the mind. So when karma goes to the point in Himalayas where Shiva would be performing his tapasya, self-immersed, right? Kena pikamena tapaschachara. That is what Kalidasa says. Who knows for what Shiva was doing this penance? Self-immersed. So Kama brings Vasanta out. Everything is out of time. Everything is out of place. It was not the time for Vasanta Ritu at all. But yet, he makes it happen. Forcibly, he wants to impose all of these things. And then he tries to, in very many ways, he tries to disturb Shiva. Nothing works. Then he sees Parvati is coming over there to perform the prayer to worship Shiva. So he says, this is the right time. Parvati is now in front of Shiva. Now I can win. Now I can win him by putting in front of Shiva the Rupa and Lavanya of Parvati. By those external beauties, I am now going to win over Shiva, is the strategy that Kama devises. And then, obviously, he takes his Pushpabana and he leaves those arrows at Shiva. They hit the mark, and Shiva slightly kind of, just that bit of having opened his eyes only a tiny bit, looks at Parvati, and he is, smitten by her beauty. Just for that 1 second, no, that very tiny moment over there, Shiva feels smitten, and immediately, see, the sadhana or a sadhaka, the awareness, the mindfulness that should always be present is like that. That is what Kalidasa is also representing when he makes even Shiva kind of get wavered for, even if it is a very fraction of a second, a very tiny fraction of a second, Shiva feels enamored of Parvati's beauty. As sadhaka, even for that one tiny moment, when we feel that my mind is wavering, if we can catch it at that point in time, when we are meditating, when we are doing our prayers, when we are doing our sadhana, the mind is always going to be wavering. It is true. And that is why when we are practicing mindfulness, it keeps saying, bring your attention back, bring your attention back. Yes, the mind is naturally inclined to keep hopping from one to other, one desire to another desire, one thought to another thought. But we have to be aware that what I was focusing on, whether we are focusing on our breath or whether we are focusing on a mantrocharana, japa, when we are doing japa, every time the mind wavers, keep bringing it back. But we should be aware. Many a times we are not even aware that, yes, we are doing japa because habituated, right? We have become so well habituated that we can keep saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, and the mind will be thinking about something else altogether. All of a sudden we realize, oh, why am I thinking about this? So we have to be so aware at every point to catch in that instant the mind is trying to waver. Shiva immediately, even in that fraction of a deviation, he catches. And then he realizes, oh, so there you are. It's a very beautiful, picturesque, symbolic representation that is happening. But the sadhaka, the moment they realize that, oh, the desire, the thought, something is now kind of like, pulling me, the moment we realize that, that awareness is jnana. That self awareness is jnana. The moment we have that jnana, immediately you will notice when you're doing that japa, immediately you will notice the mind kind of like immediately becomes aware and it stops. Wherever it was going, it will stop. In other words, Shiva's jnana chakshu, that Agni Netra, the Trinetra, the third eye, immediately opens. In very common, like, these kind of popular representations in media and everything, if you see, they will show like one big fire that emerges, and then like Kama is seen, like, oh my God, he's like torturously, Kama is going to be burned down. In Kumara Sambhava, it is none of this. None of this. The gods who would have assembled in the heavens above to look at how Kama is going to kind of like, make Shiva waver and fall in love with Parvati, the gods realize what has happened. They realize what is going to happen. And they say, Prabho, Krodham, Samhara, Samhara. All the gods, they are saying, Prabho, Krodham, Samhara, Samhara. Even now, me speaking this, you're almost instantaneously you're hearing this, right? Pretty similar. Like immediately I'm saying something and you're listening to this. So the gods are saying that, Prabho, Krodham, Samhara, Samhara. And by the time those words reached Shiva, Bhasmibhutaha, Bhasmam Chakara, Krodhagni, Shiva's Jnanagni, Krodhagni had already reduced Kama into a heap of ashes. In that fraction of a moment is all that it took. He realized what was happening, he recognized Kama, done, over. Such is the power of jnana. Such is the power of awareness. It's not like, it took like moments and moments, like, is like burning and burning and burning. That is for dramatization effect. But nothing can come as dramatic as Kalidasa's representation of Kamadahana. Magnificent representation. Literally, by the time those words came and hit Shiva's ears, job done, over, finished. This sort of Shiva, he is Marari. And he is addressed here as Hey Smarare, Hey Swamin, Hey Shiva. This tent, I feel I have not seen a interpretation like this. So this is how I think makes a much beautiful sense of what is the inner meaning of this verse. If you find something similar, I would be really very grateful if you can give me a source for this, because it's going to validate what I'm kind of like interpreting. If not, this is my first kind of like, way I'm talking it out about how I'm interpreting this. So if there are any mistakes, please, please, please forgive me for the mistakes that I might have done. But my thought is like this. Shankaracharya here is talking about the Kundalini Yoga. This is what I'm feeling. How, when we regulate our breath with pranayama and we bring our mind to a standstill, that takes a lot of dhriti. that requires a lot of determination and focus. Dhriti is determination. It requires all of that, you know, attention. Moment to moment, we need to be attentive about what is happening within us. So when we are in that state, Dhritis Stambhadharam, it has to be supported with that attention, with that focus, with that determination. Dhritistambhadharam, Drida Guna Nibaddham. Guna, like as I already told you, is rope. By the gunas, here I feel he is representing the rope. When we are talking about Kundalini, the rope through which you will be able to pull the Kundalini, which is like coiled and staying in Muladhara, you will be able to pull it up. That rope is your breath, the breathing along the Sushumna Nadi, right? So through that, you want to pull it. And in many instances, in Tantra and all other scriptures, they even equate that to kind of like drawing water from a well. So using your breath as the rope, you want to draw that Amrita, and then you're going to draw it up, and that Sahasrara you're going to spill, right? That Amrita Dhara is going to like soak your body in that Ananda, Brahmananda. Dhrida Guna Nibaddham Sagamanam, right? It is moving through all of those nadis and chakras as it keeps like coming up all the way from Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Agnya, and then like hits your Sahasrara, right? So here, that aspect of a mobile or a mobility kind of made sense for me. The other way is also like, if the entourage is going to keep on moving from one to other spot, the tent will be taken up and again set up in another place, and but it is always going to be set up very tightly. That also, yes, we can go with that. But as the Kundalini rises, it moves up. So there is dynamism, there is mobility, there is movement, all the way from Mooladhara reaching up to that Sahasrara. And it is going to happen along the Sanmarga Ghatitam, along that highway itself, right along your the Meru, which is your like the backbone. Right? So keeping that straight, along that it rises. Then what is Padmadhyam? Vichitram. Let's look at Vichitram. Vichitram, like every point within those chakras, it has its own associated varna. It has its own associated color. Everything has its own color, right? All the 6, 7 colors of the rainbow, it's all associated with all of your chakras, including Agnya, right? So at Agnya, that becomes like the 7th one. Otherwise, the 6 chakras, each one have their own colors. The same thing is also referenced, if you remember, please remember, the colors are also referenced in Lalita Sahasranama, right? In every chakra, how goddess is present, what are the aksharas that are present, and what is the color, and how many faces does she have in each of those chakras is all outlined in Lalita Sahasranama. Right? So similarly, there are chakras, so there are colors, Vichitram, Padmadhyam. And again, very self-explanatory. Every chakra, it has lotuses. There are different petals in each of those lotuses, right? Anahata has, I think, Agnya chakra has 2 lotus petals. Anahata, I think, has 10. No. So Mooladhara, so it has 4, 6, and then it increases by 10, 12, 14, 16, like that. I'll give you the exact count in the next session. I'll have to look it up. But so each has petals. So there are different types of lotuses. Padmadhyam, right? Padmadhyam, Pratidivasa Sanmarga Ghatitam, Vishadam. With that, like, in order to have, you need to have that purity of mind. It has to be very illuminous. All of these basal instincts from within us should all have gone away. Vishadam, Machetas Putapatakutim. Very nice, very bright. Once you head to that Sahasrara, there is such effulgence, just very luminous experience that you go through. What is happening over there? This is what we even see in Saundaryalahari, in Lalita Sahasranama. Every point there, Shiva, Shakti become one. There is no difference. Shiva and Shakti, they become one in Sahasrara. And therefore he says, in such a tent, when I hit that Sahasrara, Shaktya Saha Prapya, come dwell with Shakti, where Shiva and Shakti become one. In my Sahasrara, please come and dwell. Jaya. Shaktya Saha Prapya Jaya. So this is how I wanted to kind of like lay out the essence of this verse. In the next session, we will go into additional details, how having attained, so the monkey mind has been controlled through the devotion, and now the sadhaka has reached the state where he has become one with Shiva, and later on he goes into such ananda, right? You can feel the happiness that a devotee is going to feel having experienced Shiva. And that is also a beautiful picture is painted about how Shiva in Kailasa, how he is going to be, what am I going to do? And out of this sadhana, what should happen, right? All of that he talks about in the next few verses. We'll cover that in our next session. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
this opportunity. Sarvam Shivamayam Shiva Paramastu.
I just Googled it, the number of petals.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, I did not know this actually. I mean, I know about petals, but I did not know that Sahasrara finally has 1,000 petals.
Innumerable. So Sahasra is kind of like, yes, exactly, it is 1,000.
But innumerable.
Innumerable, yes.
It's like yeah, pretty exact. That's where I think even Sahasra in used generally in many times, many
Correct.
of our scriptures, Sahasra does not exactly mean 1,000.
Sahasram Uddhitaha, like how in the Vibhuti Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, it's as though 1,000 suns emerged at the same time. It's not just thousands, like innumerable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
And each chakra has its own associated letters also. But yes, please, what are the number of petals?
it says 1,000 for Sahasrara, but Muladhara 4 and Swadhisthana 6. I just
6, right? Yeah, right. And then?
and Pura 10, Anahata 12,
12, okay.
yeah, Vishuddha 16, Agna is 2 petals.
Yes.
Which is again, I'm sure there must be some relevance to the number.
The number is related to the number of varnas that exist. Varna here, not from the point of colors, it is the aksharas, varna akshara, right? So the point here is where in Tantra, especially, letters have a lot of power.
Yeah.
And that is why they say, like, even in Lalita and everything, like if you want to get the proper diksha into your Shodashakshara and everything, or Navarna Japa, all of these things, they say you have to get it through the Guru itself, because each Varna or Akshara has a lot of potency in them.
Yeah.
So if you look at the 51 aksharas that exist, the Maheshwara Sutrani, right? So each of those, they are attributed within your the Kundalini at each one.
Mhm.
And the number of petals are representative of how many aksharas exist over there,
Okay. Right.
attributed.
Mhm.
And this again you will see in Lalita Sahasranama also.
Mhm.
In Lalita Sahasranama, it talks about, in Manipura, Agnya
Mhm.
Chandrantaralashtha, right? Rudra Granthi Vivedini. So those are the Granthis, which Granthis are broken. But I think somewhere around 450 to 510, in those, Gudanna Prita Manasa,
Okay.
Samasta Gudanna Prita Manasa, all of that. So in that, he explains, in that
Mhm.
Lalita Sahasranama, you will find what are the aksharas and what is the color of Devi who is present in there, how many faces does she have, and what is very appropriate offering. So you have Gudanna, you have Shalyana, you have Haridranna Ikarasika, right? All of these are representative. So it gives a very beautiful picture. So usually during Navaratri and all, people who kind of follow, who have been initiated into Lalita Aradhana and everything, they prepare they prepare lemon rice, which is
Yeah.
basically yellow rice,
Yellow
yellow
rice.
curd,
Haridra.
na, gudanna, which is made out of jaggery
Yeah.
rice, like kind of like pongal, how it
Mhm.
is made, right? And then we have the Dhyanna Sakta Hridaya, Kakini Rupadharini, Sahasradala Padmasta, Sarovarnopashobhita, and all of that. So yeah, you will find all of that in Lalita Sahasranama.
Yeah.
That's where I started associating that maybe it's related.
Right. When you were talking, I was just quickly counted the numbers, and it's actually 50. You're right. All the chakras, all the petals are 50, except
Yeah,
for, of course, not counting the Sahasrara.
correct,
That
correct.
is 50. So that is exactly what it is. Wow.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
Mm.
Very good. I mean, this, especially this particular verse, every verse has a extremely deep meaning in it. But to understand this verse properly in the depth, people should know so many angles of what it is, about gunas and kundalini and chakras and
Yeah,
all kinds of things. And then also, like what you explained, what how he addresses even Shiva, right?
correct. Yes,
So it is, you have to get to the mountain top in learning to
yes,
even get the essence of what Shankaracharya is saying,
true.
right? Yeah.
There is something, see, even if we go with that simple, not just simple, even if we go with that beautiful representation of it as a moving tent set up on highways and all of that, that itself has a lot of appeal too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of see, this is the beauty of great men and
Yeah.
acharyas. They give something for everybody.
Everybody. Yeah, because nowadays I'm looking at, sometimes, when you look at on the videos, right?
Yeah.
There are videos from, this guy called Brian Greene, theoretical physicist, right?
Huh.
So there are videos where it says, hey, quantum, physics for, 7-year-old, quantum physics for 10-year-old, quantum physics for 15. I mean, how do you explain that
True.
quantum theory at different age groups? Just like,
True.
it's not easy, right? Quantum theory is very difficult.
Of course not. Yeah.
It's like you have to pack everything into one verse that,
Yeah.
like what you just said, somebody who probably doesn't have any depth also can actually get a meaning from it.
Yeah.
So they have to be such great, thinkers and achievers to kind
That
of bring that kind of stuff.
clarity, clarity. That is why even Ramana Maharshi, when for some period of time, he had his mother. In fact, his mother was with Ramana Maharshi itself, even during her last days. For a long time, so Ramana Maharshi's mother was with him. And one day, very nice summer activity, no, to put those sandige and everything. Like, I don't know what, like those fryams and everything that we put, make
Yeah.
papad and
Perfect.
put it in sun and everything. She was doing that. Looking at that, Ramana Maharshi composed a verse on Advaita.
Wow. Okay.
It is in Tamil. I read, like, the English side of it, but that is knowledge.
I know.
When
Yeah.
you experience in everything, you will be able to say, oh, there is Advaita in this, there is Siddhanta in this. So,
So good, very good. And I'm sorry that if anybody else has a question, I had a comment I want to make, but I just didn't want to take up all the time.
No, no,
oh,
enjoying the entire session perfectly, completely, following following the discussions.
nice.
So, Vijay, the other question I had when Praveen Avre was saying in a couple of verses ago, one verse ago, about the moha, right? And so I was thinking about when you are talking about when you sit and actually try to meditate, right?
Yeah,
Or even generally every day that you meditate and everything, do japa and all.
yeah.
It's not only the Arishad Vargas that come into picture,
Mhm.
right? Moha is one of them. I
Yeah,
was thinking it's more than Arishad Vargas. There are other things that come into picture,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
Like for example, oh, I got to do this today. I got to do that today. I mean, it's almost like your to-do list keeps on coming up for no reason.
I get such amazing ideas
I know,
when I'm
I know.
meditating.
I get amazing ideas too sometimes. I'm like, hey, how did I get this idea? I was not even thinking about it at this time.
Yes.
And some it's in psychology it's called latent
Correct,
subconscious thoughts.
correct, correct.
It becomes so in front, even if you're not even thinking about it, and all of a sudden something becomes so clear of a totally different topic than japa, right?
Yes,
But that's
yes,
not the only thing. I'm
that's true.
thinking about why only Arishad Vargas. What about fear?
Of
Fear is not part of Arishad Varga. So while you're
It's
doing this, I was
directly a
actually,
part of Arishad Varga, that is true, but it is indirectly, right? The
I know.
Bhaya Shoka Moha that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
Bhaya, because whatever I desire, I might lose it.
Yeah.
So karma is indirectly there, instigating fear in our minds.
Yeah. So I was actually, this is also some distraction that I have for myself. I sometimes keep on doing some Googling on the side while I'm kind of listening to this thing. So it's not only Arishad Vargas, Pancha Kleshas.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So what they are saying is Pancha Kleshas are the actual roots. Arishad Vargas actually come through that from couple of those kleshas. One of them is avidya, ignorance.
Yes. Yeah.
Asmita, which is egoism, raga, attachment, which is where you're whether it is fear or happiness, right, or pleasure, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dvesha, and then abhinivesha.
Abhiniveshana. Yes.
That's where fear of death or whatever, right? So
Correct.
two
Abhiniveshana.
kleshas. So I was thinking, like, why, how come Harshad Vargas only put them but not the other ones? Because there are effects of some of those kleshas rather than actual things.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. They're all manifestations and they give sub manifestations of everything else.
Yeah.
Right. And again in Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sangat sanjayate kamo, kamat krodho vijayate, krodhat bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. Ultimately, we lose that determination, we lose that buddhi. Once
Right.
that is gone, it's like you've lost your discrimination. You don't know what is what.
Yeah. It is disappointing though, when I'm listening to this, disappointing in a way that even extremely, meditating people, not just, Lord Shiva, but, I'm talking about any other, even if you take Vishwamitra or anybody else, right? Every one of them, if they can easily be distracted, sometime in their entire, 1,000 years of, meditation, what are we?
Exactly. But that is the beauty of Kavya and a Kavi, right? Even in Mahabharata, despite all the niceties that and the dedication we see in Vyasa, he paints an incident where Krishna becomes kind of like, he behaves in a very inappropriate manner. In Valmiki, Rama, so many times Rama becomes dejected It is Lakshmana who inspires Rama again and again. When Kabandha kidnaps Sita, when Ravana kidnaps Sita, so many instances he laments, he curses his father, saying that my father, he went behind this young lady and he lost his mind, and now I am suffering because of my father. The way we were to, like, he says, like, Kaikeyi should drink one nice big tumbler of milk, nice milk with all badam pista she should drink, because like, see, I lost my wife, my whole, what is the point of me living, all of this, the way we do.
And Lakshmana actually brings him back to
Lakshmana brings him back. He's like, what are you talking? Why are you talking like this? You are the Rama who slayed Tataka. You are the Rama who did this. So he again boosts him up.
Yeah, we need a Lakshmana with us all the time in our mind.
It literally is that. But that's the beauty, that if we don't make all of these people accessible to us, we will not be able to rise up. Otherwise, we will say, "Yo, he is God, so he can do everything." Kavi brings the God closer to us. That is what here Acharya, despite all of his, philosophy and his intellect and everything, he becomes such a wonderful Kavi, that he makes Shiva so accessible to us.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll connect next week.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Praveen Garu. Thank you. Thank you, Shogaru.